Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Connecting with Kim. We're so happy you joined us here at Tampa Bay Arts and Education Network. And you can also find the audio of our show on Sun Radio 96.3 FM in Sun City Center and on your favorite streaming platform. And I also like to start out my show giving a grateful shout out to my sponsor, the Spring of Tampa Bay, who supplies from the Spring Boutique located at Swann and Henderson in South Tampa, my on-air wardrobe. And I would invite you to visit my Instagram and my Facebook pages to visit the photographs and know exactly what part of the ensemble is from the Spring Boutique. And then I encourage you to go there and buy your clothes at either the Spring Boutique or the thrift store on North Willow, because all the net proceeds from both locations go to support the mission of the Spring of Tampa Bay, which is to provide sanctuary and services to survivors of domestic violence and their children. And they've been doing this for a long time, and they're very good at it. And so I want you to support them and make me happy, okay? Because I love everything I get from there. So we have such a great episode coming up today. I've told you this before, I love every guest I have on my show because they're all great people. And today we have an author of children's books on our show, and her name is RC Chizhov. Welcome to Connecting with Kim.
Thank you, Kim. I'm so glad to be here.
We're thrilled to have you. We love covering the waterfront of topics and people, and this is just I don't think we've ever had a children's book author on, so this is just a fabulous opportunity for us because education is in our name. So I want you to take the first, take as much time as you like, but we always start the show the same way. We allow our guests to share their life journey, because you just never know, in their life journey, you may have something in common with those wonderful folks out there listening and watching the interview.
Absolutely. So I am RC Chizhov. I grew up in India, and I moved to New York back in 2005 to pursue my higher education at Columbia University. I did a master's program in finance, and I got my first job at Bank of America as an investment banker. And I spent 14 years thereafter in the corporate world, working in the financial services industry, before I realized my childhood dream of being an author. We as a family, with my husband and son, we moved to Sarasota right in the middle of the pandemic in 2021. And that was, I think, the spark. It was a trigger for me to try out my passion, something that I've always been wanting to do and been doing as a hobby for throughout my life since I was 5 years old, to actually start writing books. And why children's books? I was inspired by my son to write my first book, which is The Lion in Your Heart. He had a difficulty sleeping alone in his room for the longest time. And I often told him encouraging words, and one of the words I used was be brave. And he asked me, Mommy, what does being brave mean? And then I realized that a child probably doesn't know some of the words that we always tell them to be, like be brave or behave or do this right or do this there. So that really got me thinking, and I had a story brewing in my mind, which was, how do you explain to a child the concept of courage? And so that was the first book that I wrote, which is Lion in Your Heart, which explains that courage is within, it's in your heart.
Right.
It's a line that children can relate to.
Absolutely.
And so that's how my writing journey started. I enjoyed it so much that I had to go on, and so I said goodbye to the corporate world and began my journey as a children's book author.
Well, I'm suitably impressed because, first of all, you come over and you go to Columbia University, which is not, it's a prestigious school. It's very hard to get into. And so you continue your education there, and then you embark on a career in a high-powered, fast-paced, pressure cooker industry, particularly during that time that you were in it, because you had to weather the downturn in 2007-8, but then everything just took off after that.
Yes.
I mean, the stock market just, it went crazy, and it just kept going up and up and up. So that was quite something to say, I'm going to step away from this. I'm going to do something different, and I'm going to do something that I've wanted to do my whole life long.
Yeah, I have to say that. I mean, I enjoyed being in finance, and that was something that I've always been analytical, and I liked math, and I had a degree in that. So
Right.
that was if it's the corporate world, that's where I see myself. But ever since I was 5, like I was saying, I think I wrote my first story when I was 6 or 7 years old, and it was called Adventures of Greg Bear, and I'd handwritten it. And Greg Bear was basically my grandfather, so whatever he would do was translated to a bear, and that was the stories. And I kept writing throughout my life, be it poetry. I've blogged for Life Hack for a while. I've participated in National Novel Writing Month twice. I've taken fiction writing classes in New York. It's been so much a part of my life that I felt.
And were you being published all this time too? Were some of these stories that
some of them, so in Life Hack, yes, I think you can still find them, yes, online. But most of them, I kept them close to my heart and not published it because I did it as a hobby. But every time I went to a bookstore, I was like, if something's in my bucket list, I really want to see my book there, especially when you go to Barnes & Noble, and then I want to see my book there.
Right.
And so that was something when the pandemic hit. It was just a culmination of different things that just led to an opportunity for me.
Right.
Like I said, my family was moving, and I had this idea that I really wanted to see in the story and in Line in Your Heart. So it all came together, and that's how I began my journey.
Well, I got to say, we talk about the pandemic, and it certainly was a big event, for the world and for us in the United States. But like any big event, doors close, but doors open.
Yes.
And that's how I always look at events like that, not only collectively, but in your personal life, because it does allow you, you kind of step back, take stock, and say, yeah, this might be just the right time to make a pivot and do something else in life.
Yeah, I think one of the things, the first thing I thought of was life is really short. And if I want to really do something, like I said, I was at the bookstore. I was like, I don't want to live with that regret that I really wanted to do this and I didn't do it.
I know.
And I was so passionate, I realized when I started writing and publishing books that this is really my passion and this is what I wanted to follow.
So you wrote the Line in Your Heart, in part, to help your son understand, who was, I'm sure, like a lot of children, afraid of the dark. They don't want to be, they're afraid of the dark. They don't want to be in their room alone.
Yes.
I mean, I went through that as a child. I was afraid of the dark. And even now as an adult, I have night lights all over my house. I mean, there is no part of my house you can't walk into that there'll not be a night light. It just kind of stayed with me. I just, I got over being afraid of the dark and sleeping by myself, but I still like that idea, So you wrote this book to help him overcome this and to explain to him what is courage and what is being brave. So before it was published, did you try it out on your son, or tell me about that process?
I did. I mean, it's not a magic button, but it's definitely a conversation starter, and that's what I want to do through my books. The books should relate to children at that level, and one of the other things that the book does is it also explains that that adults have fears. There's a mom in the book who's saying, I have a lion in my heart too, and the book ends with the lion in me is the lion in you, and it's the lion in everyone, because we all have fears. And fears are something that it's universal, right? What do you do then? We all gather up the courage and face our obstacles because we have that courage within us. So that's the concept of the book. And you're right, a lot of parents reached out to me after I wrote the book, saying that this is great, at bedtime I can talk to my son or my daughter or a caregiver to their grandchildren, that this is a great conversation starter. That what do you have fears? Can you want to talk about that? In a fun way too, not in a very heavy kind of preachy way, of course.
Right.
But and what do? You have that courage, and you can stand up and you can wake that line up, and whether it's the first time you ride a bike, you're trying something new, or you're trying to achieve your dream. So there's all these examples in the book that talk about these things for children.
I'm happy for you because it's not easy getting published either. That's the other. I wanted to ask you, how did that? So you wrote this book, you tested it out on your son, presumably.
Yes, absolutely.
And maybe some other. And
yes,
so how did the publishing process go?
So all the books that I have currently are self-published through my company.
Okay.
And I've worked with freelancers. I've worked with wonderful illustrators who've illustrated the book, editors and proofreaders, and distribution platforms to actually get that out there. But right now, I've recently signed with a literary agency.
Oh, really?
Yes, with a Seymour agency, where I'm going to pursue the traditional publishing route with them going forward. So this has been interesting for me that, I own the entire business aspect of these books so far. But going forward, like I said, I want to focus on the writing and I want to focus on the creative parts. So I have an agent who's going to help me, publish the books through bigger publishers.
Cool. So you wrote The Line in Your Heart, and then I know there's, it'll be in the final version of the interview. You wrote a companion coloring book.
Yes, there's a companion coloring book because I received a lot of positive response on this from teachers and caregivers. And this is a book that I felt like I wish I had when I was a child. So it's an affirmations-based coloring book based off of this. So it has things like, I'm strong, I'm powerful, I'm a leader, and it has pictures that go with that, fun pictures that kids can understand. Right? So while you're coloring, you can feel empowered and inspired by the creative fun while you're having fun coloring the book.
Well, and coloring, I mean, has really, the return to coloring has really taken off, not only for children, but in the adult world. I mean, I have a lot of my friends who have coloring books. And they're coloring, and they have very expensive pencil sets. In fact, my girlfriend gave me one for a Christmas gift, and of books and expensive coloring pencils to color in these books, and it's amazing. I mean, it just kind of, when you're doing it, you're just kind of, it just takes you away from everything. It's such a stress reliever.
And you're not really thinking about it. When a child is coloring, they're not really, it's not about like, this is the affirmation and this is what I need to say. It's just natural. It's just happening naturally. They're just coloring and they're just reading that. And,
So first you wrote The Line in Your Heart, and then you wrote the companion coloring book. So tell me what happened after that.
After that, I had this idea about doing a series about emus. And
what made you choose an emu?
Oh, first off, there are so many stories about bunnies and elephants, and rightfully so. Kids love them, and dinosaurs. But emus were just interesting to me because, firstly, there were very, very few books on emus. But there were some characteristics, like they have 3 toes. They're flightless. They're birds, but they're flightless. They can swim. They can run very fast. They can break fences. And I also read, and I think it's one of the zoos in the U.S., like they feed kale and romaine to emus, and which is something I've used in Adventure Emu. So I found these very interesting aspects of emus that I thought children would really love.
Yeah, that's very and feeding the kale and the romaine.
I thought that was so unique, like salads.
Okay, now we can start to figure out how to encourage children to eat those, because
maybe not. Yeah.
So you chose an emu. So tell me, what was the motivation for the first story, and what was it about?
Yeah, so all these books, the series is the first. The primary goal is for children to be entertained and amused and just pique their curiosity, because that's what children want to do. They want to have fun while reading the book. So they're really funny. They're written in rhyme. But there's also a theme around it. And all these cover, the theme of emotional learning, which is, how do children build and develop their self-awareness? Or, how do they make decisions better? Let me give you an example. Like Adventure Emu is all about gratitude, but without being preachy. That's the message of the story. But it's a fun journey where he goes to a fair, a tornado comes, and then he's whisked away to a fair, and he's having fun. So it's something that children will like. But at the end of the day, it has this theme of being thankful for where you live, what you have, and so that's the message of that.
So let me just take a little break here. If you're just joining us now on Connecting with Kim, and I certainly hope you are, my guest in the chair today is RC Chizhov, who is a children's book author, and she came from the world of corporate finance, so it's a total pivot, and she's pursuing her successfully now, her lifelong dream of being a writer and being an author, and she's written some wonderful, beautiful children's books, which we're talking about right now. So Adventure Emu was all about choosing a very interesting character to get the message across, and then it's about gratitude, the primary theme, and you used it. Gratitude and being thankful, and I just love the idea that you wrote it in rhyme, because writing in rhyme is not that easy.
Yeah, but it's also fun. I think I enjoy writing in rhyme and in prose, but it was fun. Kind of children I think they remember better in rhyme, or they read aloud, because these books are meant to be read aloud, like I was saying, be it a teacher who's reading to a classroom, or you're reading them at bedtime. So this is, they build bonds in a way, because you're reading it with the child, but they also have easy language, like in rhymes, that the children can try to read, that develops their reading skills as well.
So are some of your books being read in schools?
Absolutely.
Oh,
They are
see,
in
I wanted
schools.
to, yeah.
They're in schools. They are in Barnes & Noble. They are available on Amazon and all the major retailers. I do a lot of author visits in schools. I go and read to them, or sometimes tell them about my journey as an author to the little children, like kindergarten to third grade, who is the main audience of the book. And I go to bookstores for signings, and I read my book at various events in the area. So yeah, my books are in some of the independent bookstores. They're in schools. They're in libraries too. So yeah, they're in quite a few libraries in the Manatee County and in here too. Yes, yeah.
I love that, because I often, I've always been a reader. I love to read. And my mother was very encouraging, a parent that way. And I remember quite fondly that my third grade teacher, Miss Thrush, I will never forget her as long as I live. Miss Thrush, we would have story hour, and we would, even though we were in third grade, and we would gather around her. And Miss Thrush, introduced me to, and my classmates, to like Little House in the Big Woods, Little House on the Prairie, Charlotte's, all those classic children's books that, I look back on those days very fondly, and I already loved to read, but I felt like what she did in third grade was just stoked the fire within me to keep being a reader.
Yeah, and I can give you an example. One of the elementary schools read my book, The Lion in Your Heart, and one of the classrooms, the teacher, she gave an activity to the children to draw themselves and their lion, and they sent it home to me, and it's on my social media, but it is a range of, what people think of themselves. Some lions are small, some are fancy, some are plain, and it's like one's in a policeman outfit, like what they really think through the story. So I think that's wonderful, like
that's
how
lovely.
they use, I know
love
how
that.
they use the book. And
Yeah.
another one that reminds me is one of the other ones. I was at a book fair, and a parent came and said, I love your book. She already had my book. She said my daughter, she was going to go by bus to school for the first time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a big thing.
And she was very anxious.
Yeah, sure.
And they read this book at bedtime the night before. Just happened to read it, not for any purpose or for the bus ride. And she told her mom when she was getting onto the bus that, it's okay, Mom, I have a lion in my heart. So that's what's the most gratifying, rewarding and satisfying part of being an author, is that kids can connect to it and they take something away from it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So after Adventure Emu, what came next?
So I have 2 more books in this series. One is called Nope Nope Emu, which is all about perseverance.
Let's repeat that again.
Nope Nope Emu.
Nope Nope Emu.
Yes. So this is all about perseverance. And it's about an emu who, again, written in funny rhymes, that it's about an emu who fails and who's taken the failure very hard. Mm-hmm. And now she's just saying no to everything. But then it's her journey of transformation, of how she thinks that trying again might, get back her crown of one of the games she's playing in the book. There's also a fun spider and a puppy and a monkey in the book. But that's all about perseverance, because I think that's I really believe that perseverance is important at a very young age, especially in this chaotic world that we live in these days.
Well, actually, after the day I had yesterday, I probably better read that book. You probably better leave it for me. So
sure, but there's also research. There's some research that I read by a professor called Angela Duckworth, who said perseverance is actually more important than IQ in determining a child's success. And that was really playing in my mind. How can I make something really fun and write about perseverance in a book? So Nope Nope Emu is all about that. And then I have another book which is in the same series, which is Magician Emu. That actually, the inspiration for that story came through a kindergarten classroom. So I was volunteering in my son's classroom, and one little girl came up to me, and she had this imaginary wand, and she waved it at me, and she said, I want to be a magician when I grow up. So, and that was it. I said, I have to write a book about magician. And then I started doing my research, and interestingly, there were very few female magicians in the world. And I was like, I have to make this female, because I want young girls to read that and feel empowered and feel like they can achieve their dreams. So that was the basis of that story. in that story, Magician Emu, who's the main character, she wants to be like someone else, but her magic's constantly failing. It's just not like him. And she realizes that her magic's different. She is, it has slime and it has, flying frogs out of the hat. But her magic's just different. And it's all about daring to be different and standing up for your dreams. So that's what
I
that book is
love
about.
that message.
Yeah.
That's a great message because, a lot of people want to pattern themselves after somebody else, not realizing that they have their own identity and they need to let that identity come through. We overuse this word today, authentic self.
Yes.
But it is that kind of idea that you let your authenticity, who you are as a person, come through.
Yeah, it's all about finding your own magic.
That's
was
right,
a tagline.
finding your own magic. I love that.
Yes.
Oh gosh, I probably should read that one too. Now, what's on the horizon? Because you have this. This is the sum total we have so far, right?
Yeah,
Adventure
and
Emo.
two of my books, the Lion in Your Heart and the coloring book, have been translated to Spanish.
Oh, cool!
Because some teachers gave me feedback. There were very few Spanish books and there are dual language schools in our neighborhood.
Oh, absolutely.
Who have sent the books to and they like it and they're probably going to keep that in the classroom. So that is another part of it's 5 books and 2 books in Spanish. But what's coming next is more books. Like I said, I'm working with the agent and there are things in the pipeline that I can't announce now, but there are more books coming for sure.
But is it so? Are we switching off the lion and the emu onto a new character? Would that be coming also? Or are we staying with these characters?
Yeah, there's going to be different kinds of books. Although I keep thinking about emus and trying to maybe in the future there's going to be an expansion. I haven't really decided that yet.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm going to bring all 3 together in some way, because it's 3 different characters and I can bring them together. But I haven't really, I'm still thinking about that.
So, and are they still going to be books that are geared to kindergarten to 3rd graders, or are you going to maybe branch out to other age groups?
So for right now, it's all about picture books. Like I want to write funny and humorous and like meaningful picture books with an important message, like all these books are. So they're typically for ages 3 to 8. I do have plans to go write for older kids in the future, but for now, it's all about picture books for me.
And so, are you going to stay with the picture books and stay with the rhyme, or are you going to are they going to be more?
Yeah, they're going to be different.
Yeah.
They're going to be like Lion in Your Heart is written in prose, so it's going to be a mix of. Some things work in rhyme, and some books just don't. Like some books are just more narrative, and they're just work better without the rhyme. So it depends on the story and what I'm going to be writing. So yeah, I'm looking forward to more interesting stuff coming.
But you're definitely going to stay in the children's book area. You're not going to venture into adult books or something like that.
Who knows? But who knows? I've written short stories and adult fiction in the past, but they haven't shown it to anyone yet. So, but right now there's so much to do here, and I'm so motivated. Like I said, I love reading to children and catering to the audience there, that age group, because they are the future readers. They are the future adult readers. And reading at an early age and just promoting literacy at an early age and talking about these topics like learning and like building positive characters or just kind of self-awareness, like through Magician Emu, we were saying, just believing in yourself. I think these are important things, and I have so much more to write about in this area and for this audience that for now this is it.
Oh, this is such a, these are the kind of shows I love to do because I love introducing someone like yourself to a wider audience than maybe has experienced you up till now. And I love that this is all positive, it's all relevant, it's all meaningful to the development of our children, because the development of your child and all the other children that you interact with is going to impact all of us.
Absolutely.
The development of that child and their growth into a contributing, productive member of society who is literate and can make themselves something of the world. It impacts all of us.
Yeah, I mean, children are the future of the world.
Absolutely.
Right? And like I said before, chaotic times. There's so much. There's an overwhelming amount of information and technology than when I grew up as a child. So there's so many more decisions to make. I think their lives are a little bit more complicated, than what we had. And I think books are very powerful tools, like some of the examples I gave, right? They touch people's lives. And children really remember, like you said about your childhood. I have books, that
I remember all of that. Like it was, I mean, when I look back, that is a fond, wonderful memory for me, and I know what a turning point or what an important impact that had on my life at that age. Because like in third grade, you're like 8 or 9, right? And I remember that very well. I mean, I remember Miss Thrush. I remember the time we spent together. I mean, I could picture her in my mind at a moment's notice. You know? I mean, and she was considered to be, and then the funny thing is she was considered to be sort of a strict, not nice teacher, but not for me, I mean, I recall her very fondly.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that through my books, the children create memories and they feel empowered or inspired, or they laugh, or they're amused. And it starts their journey of wonder, maybe. So,
well, let's share with everybody. We're just about out of time. I know. I feel like we could talk about this for forever, but we're just about out of time. So I always like to, make sure you share with the audience any website information or any other information you want them to know about where they can find your wonderful books.
Yes. So if you're interested in my books, you can visit my website on rcchizhov.com. You can find autographed copies of my books on my website. Otherwise, you can find my books on all major retailers online globally, like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, bookshop.org, Target, in independent bookstores locally. A couple of them I can name, which is Barnes & Noble in St. Pete, Bookstore One in Sarasota. And you can also find them in your libraries. And if you don't find them, librarians are very happy to request books that you would like to read. So feel free to request them.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being my guest today on Connecting with Kim. I'm happy that you took the time out of your busy schedule to be with us. I think this was just a wonderful, wonderful topic to cover. I wish you every success. We were talking about, before we went on the air, how beautifully illustrated your books are. And so thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was wonderful to be here.
It was our pleasure.
Thank you.
So that's all we have time for today on Connecting with Kim. We're so happy that you joined us. Please go and support my sponsor, the Spring of Tampa Bay, through the Spring Boutique and their thrift store on North Willow. And come back next week for another edition of Connecting with Kim, where we make living in our little corner of paradise that much better.